on the other side of the integration. What brought you to that point? What have you noticed?
Oh, well, I also had fibromyalgia at one time and had, completely hit the wall, so to speak, and I had exhausted the Western medicine side of it. And what I did is I began to approach it, from more of a metaphysical, fibromyalgia is undealt with pain and anger. And so I had to really look at that and really approach it from that area first. But while I had fibromyalgia, I also had what they call mycosis, which is systemic yeast, bacteria, and fungus throughout the blood system. So not good at all. And so I approached that with intense cleansing and a live foods diet. So that's how, and in time, everything cleared up. Everything healed itself. But, that would be if you came to me or someone came to me and had already exhausted kind of the Western medicine and saw that there was no improvement, I would then go for the more holistic, like, let's look at what's happening in all the other areas of your life, the other, the stuff that's not healed, the heart, the emotions, that kind of thing.
Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to bring in Suzanne. And one of the reasons I want to bring in Suzanne is I want to go back to our listeners and share that, I was really, in my heart, I was feeling that I was living in such a secret because the reality is that according to everything I found, I was already eating the way people are supposedly supposed to eat to get cured, but I was already eating that way. I was already so in love and in a happy relationship. I was already feeling a deep connection to spirit and feeling supported that way. And so for someone like myself, it was enormously frustrating because everyone that I met with was saying, well, you have to eat this way. Okay, well, what if you already eat that way? Or you have to do this. Okay, well, I'm already doing this. And so to have been at the end of my rope, and then what started happening was by August, after I'd been on this Cymbalta, Tylenol, Tylex 750 and the allergy pills and the D3, and it wasn't getting better. It was actually getting worse. We found the only doctor in Guatemala who God bless this woman. I mean, lupus is her life. I mean, she's
a true specialist.
She's incredible. And it took a month just to get the appointment. And we literally got in because we knew somebody. I mean, it was that kind of thing. And you guys have seen her prescriptions. And I had said to Shri as we were driving to the appointment, I said, if she tries to put me on any kind of prednisone or anything like that, any steroidal medicine, I am not doing it. Well, she gave me so much medicine to take that it's almost, I never took any of it, by the way, but I put the copy of the prescriptions, they're in my book. They're in the book Shri and I have put out called Kira's Cure. They're on our website right now. But not only was I prescribed the steroids, I was prescribed folic acid, plus I was prescribed a folic acid inhibitor. I was prescribed medicines that would counteract the known side effects I would get with these medicines. And these were all supposed to be on top of the medicine that was now starting to give me symptoms. And I'm talking about the Cymbalta. And in the second half of the show, we're going to go a lot there because I want people to know about how dangerous this drug is. And my original doctor's solution was to take more Cymbalta.
Right. When the initial prescription didn't work that well, he said, well, just double the dose.
Just keep going. So by the time we got done, guys, I was up to 90 milligrams. And the reality is that I want to bring Suzanne in because Suzanne works truly at the level of spirit. She doesn't even go to the level. It's like Martin's number 4 about the vibration. And that's all she works in. And for someone like myself, my communication with her became another part of that puzzle of Kira's Cure. So Suzanne, welcome to the show. And we'd love to just hear from you when you are working with people that are somewhat doing the things they're quote unquote supposed to do, and you see all these energies. How do you come in? What is it? What's the gift that you bring forward?
Well, one, thank you for having me. And I think if you don't mind me connecting to you during this process, as a way to explain that is Kira was, when I met Kira, I met you guys, it was at Lake Atzaban the day before your twin flame ceremony, unbeknownst to me that I was going to be there for that and support the two of you through that sacred ceremony. I think you were all...
That was here in Guatemala.
Yeah. Yes, and you guys were a little shocked having a bunch of us there. But ever since that point, I really took in that ceremony what the elder told both of you to my heart, and I've held it and prayed every day, I swear, in connection to the two of you, just to be held so that you could move through your vibrations and your transitions with grace, even though what was kind of seemed tumultuous in my mind. And then last summer when you were so sick, I couldn't get a hold of you. I basically traveled, or you traveled to me in the dreams, and then I wrote Shri, and I said, "Is everything okay there? I'm really concerned," because I was very concerned. So, I am that 911 person to assist in that realms, in the unseen realms, in the in-between realms, and aid support. It's frustrating when you're doing everything right, when you're taking the nutrition route, when you're in, like you said, a beautiful relationship. And there are so many energies, as Martin mentioned, vibrational disturbances, and it's noted in Chinese medicine. There's 13 ghost points. And Kira, what you do, and a lot of times people, I think question you because they don't understand. And that's the other thing I would like to note today is that, when I met you, I could see you, your fullness and what you do, and then participating in some of your events, I could sense people, because they don't have maybe that ability to see the same way, they doubt it, they question it. But that's really problematic for all of us in society if we're projecting on one another the doubts that we have or skepticism we have. And for you, who's opened up your soul to serve in such a beautiful way, wow, it's so difficult to take all of that on. And I really noticed it last year or 2 years ago when I was down there with Guatemala that, you were really being impacted psychically by those disturbances. So not only do I help people in my studio with sound and energy and balancing and talk therapy and encouraging them to eat well, I watch over them in the ethers and assist them if needed in that situation.
And I'm grateful that you're willing to be out there about that, because what's so beautiful about each one of you here is that each one of you has really come forward and said, this is who I am. And it's important to recognize that regardless of how we express, the purpose is to express with our authentic self.
Right. And so I was just excited. I mean, I think, and you're absolutely right, Kara, and we all to have courage to do that. And really all of us that maybe aren't there to fully express ourselves, to really be mindful of our thoughts and our emotions and really take ownership for them for ourselves and work through that stuff and not project it on one another. It's really a beautiful way to help out our fellow human species, I like to call it.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that's beautiful, I appreciate you mentioning it, Suzanne, is that oftentimes we need a coach, we need a healer, we need someone that we can interact with that will cultivate a sense of trust and give us that extra perspective. And just as your talent for seeing between the worlds and looking at the energies at play offers a unique gift to the clients, each of the people here today has a focus of that the client may not have seen before.
Exactly, and that it's not just one thing, and that's what I love about this beautiful panel. If you look at Shri, what you do, which you haven't talked a lot about what you do, but if you look at the underpinnings, if you look at the way Martin approaches it, the way Morava approaches it, the way Suzanne approaches it, what I discovered and what you and I have written about in the book Kira's Cure, and it's, again, guys, the first 200 people, you're going to get this for free. It's a free ebook. Just click on the link right there. After that, it's only 99 cents because we want people to understand the value of this. And all of our panelists are in this book. There's a lot more information there.
And let me just offer my another little condensed snippet that is on a slightly different tack than what has been shared. When we're dealing with an autoimmune dysfunction, now that could be lupus, it relates to fibromyalgia, it relates to a number of different disorders.
A lot.
But remember, the purpose of the immune system is to keep us safe. And when there's threats out there, and the threats are both biological, energetic, spiritual, at any level, there are threats. But from a strictly emotional perspective, when our system is on alert, we're going to feel insecure or threatened. and it shifts our orientation toward the world. We become irritated and irritable. And when there's a lack of deep emotional support, then the immune just deteriorates. And so one of the universal things needed for anybody who's ill is that wonderful, loving support, that sense of I am safe, that is needed in order for the person to harness their reserves. And the reserves come at all the levels.
Right. And this is what's so important, is to recognize that no matter where you are, beloved angels, no matter where you are in your life's journey, you can always go beyond. And, now that I'd like to say we're kind of on the other side, you can go beyond. I feel today as if our life is I feel like Sri and I had 11 years practice. And I was giggling with Sri the other day. I was on our website, sriandkira.com, and I was at the Archangelic Messages because we're very excited. We have a whole bunch of beautiful new things. Everything's popping beginning of June. And I was looking at the Archangelic Messages and noticed that we had over 120 messages. And I started laughing and looked at Sri and said, well, that would mean we've been doing this over 10 years. And I was like, oh my God, how did that happen? How did that happen? And we were just on our good friends, Bill and Nancy Burns. We were just on their wonderful show last week, Future Theater with Bill and Nancy Burns. And, I was remembering that we met Bill and Nancy we met Bill and Nancy when Nancy was telling me about UFO hunters before they even piloted it for the History Channel. And we were both giggling about how we have radio archives. Our radio archives go back to 2004. And it just blew my mind.
And so part of that is a celebration, in fact, and also part of that is a recognition that when you do your work, whatever your work is, we must recharge. We must take care of ourselves.
And we must remember that we are all growing. If we're still in a body, we're still expanding, and not to allow something like this. And I want to, before we get any further, I know we have so many callers and I want to get more to our panels. I want to flip Sri and talk about what the drug addiction did, because I wound up with a drug addiction unbeknownst to myself.
Well, let me offer a quick recap.
Please.
So we shared a little bit about the period of stress, the period of psychic and physical attack that
and
was
this is
going
all
on.
in our this is all in the ebook. Get the book called Kira's Cure.
And those were the multiple straws that kind of broke the camel's back. When we were working through the process of healing and looking closely at diet, looking closely at exercise, attitude, and basically cut back from work.
Right.
Each of the people...
And the freaking out about even thinking about cutting out, because I think that was my other addiction. I was absolutely addicted to service. You can get addicted to service.
And taking care of others instead of yourself.
Yeah.
And so one of the, sometimes it's the littlest things that help. I remember when Kira talked to Martin, it was about adding more olive oil into her diet.
Well, there was more than that. It was Martin's entire questionnaire. And guys, the link to this is in the book, Kira's Cure. And I mean it. Go do it. It's I forget, Martin, what is it? $9,900. What did I pay for that? I forget.
You paid $97, and it's called Advanced Level Metabolic Typing Test. There is a free level of it for healthy people, but once you get into this damaged state, the simple quiz won't do. Anyway, it's called Advanced Metabolic Typing Test.
Perfect.
Well, and Martin's integrative approach, very practical, involving all four levels.
And if you don't want to wait till you get the book that we have, just click on that Life Enthusiast banner and go discover it at his site. Because I have to say, Martin, it was, and he kind of challenges you. Martin challenges you to be, you've got to be really honest. And I love that, because if you're really honest, it was, for me, it was one of my pieces of revelation.
It offered one of the keys.
One of them.
And each one of us in our journey through life there's an area where we're stronger and an area where we're just say a little weaker, a little less full.
Right, yeah.
And we need helpers to remind us how to fill up. What are we needing?
And here's where I have to talk about Marava. I'm talking about you, Marava, right in front of you. Marava came down here. She had the courage and the diligence and said, you know what, I am ready to go to the next level. With all these certifications, and like I said, guys, it would take a whole show to read them. She came down to Guatemala to really dive into becoming a self-ascension intuitive counselor. And this is part of our Avesa Medical School and our medical school. Listen to me, our Avesa Quantum Healing School. I feels like a medical school because I feel so good, but it's not. And one of the things that I loved about Mirava was, as a student, you did not hold back. And so Shri and I, one of the changes we've made in our lives in response to what happened and part of the cure was, I don't want to do the groups of 1,000 people in an auditorium anymore. I like these intimate groups. I really enjoyed it. And when you came down here to become an SAIC, you really allowed yourself to be filled with that, and it filled me. It was actually part of the cure, was to realize that there was another way we can distribute this information to sincere people who really want to bring the work to the world. And so, Mirava, that's how you were part of the cure for me.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, because through doing that, the mutual benefit is that you have this amazing practice, and I just love that.
And so, kind of the lesson here is, it's essential that you look at your relationships, especially with immune disorders, because lupus is a classic example of feeling unsupported by the world. Now, naturally, if one's being attacked, you've got a very logical support, but it's also about those other relationships, such as teacher and student,
right?
And a sense of balance and harmony in your relationships.
And I think the final piece for us, Shri, was, and I want to bring this up, and maybe Suzanne wants to speak to it a little bit, was about, here I was addicted to a drug and I didn't even know it. And,
I just got to say
go
this.
There. Yeah.
We made a mistake in hindsight.
Oh yeah.
Is we accepted this doctor's prescription for this
Alisur
drug.
This
called
is the original prescription, which it turns out is Cymbalta.
And it actually provided relief from the joint pain
for the fibromyalgia, but nothing else. And as a matter of fact, I found that I was getting a little. Well, it's the reason I went to the second doctor. I found myself feeling unstable.
It brought in some other issues. Yeah. And we just want to touch on this briefly. Cymbalta is a drug. It's kind of an antidepressant used for systemic pain.
And they do use it for depression.
It's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
And it's one of the only drugs that has actually been theoretically tested and approved for fibromyalgia.
It may be the only one. Well, here's the quick downside. When it's time...
No, it's not quick.
When it's time to get off this drug, it's a living hell, unlike anything I've ever seen, worse than heroin.
It is, and I've got lots about this. If you know anyone who is on Cymbalta, thinking about getting in Cymbalta, or anyone that's been around it, in the book Cura's Cure, I also have a link to believe it or not, guys, I'm sitting here, I've got all 19 pages in front of me. It's an FDA report, archived report, on how Eli Lilly knew what this was doing, knows what it's doing, and really hasn't done anything about how doctors and the company itself refuse to look at this, what they're now calling discontinuation syndrome. And I want to share with you guys that the trap for me was that if I took this, I could still work. I could still be of service. I could still do things. And it never affected, because I was able to maintain a high vibrational rate, it never affected my direct stream. What it affected was my physical ability to be present, to interact outside of being in my home and being very sheltered that way. And I want to share with all of you that after I got up to 90 milligrams, which was what the doctor said, oh no, just take more. And like a fool, I did. Finally, it was about 5 months ago, and that the final piece was Shri and I went into deep meditation, and it was clear that all of the lessons, because I've learned so much, and maybe part of it was to become a mouthpiece for people never to take this drug. Part of it was, it's time to get off. And guys, I want to tell you that even 8 weeks after I went through a suggested weaning process, and there's a great website called cymbaltawithdrawal.com, and I have all this in the book, Cura's Cure, even doing what they call to be the correct process, even weaning off, 8 weeks later, I was still waking up every single day spinning and feeling as if there's, I don't know, it's like you're on an airplane and your ears are all clogged
nausea.
up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Horrible.
And so there is indeed a lot of lessons, and more than we can do on this show. The one thing I will say, and maybe this is slightly incorrect politically, if anybody is considering getting on an antidepressant, please see someone who offers a holistic support for your life before jumping into the med.
And truly, if you've got fibromyalgia, reach out to one of our amazing panelists. Reach out to us. Get our book, Cura's Cure. It's free to the first 200 people. After that, it'll only be 99 cents. There are things you can do, and we're not saying don't go do what you feel you need to do. Just get better. better informed.
Remember, there's more than one way to solve anything.
And, Shri, speaking of that, we have had so many amazing people holding. Why don't we just take a few of our callers, and our panelists are standing by, and let's do that.
Yeah, we'll just offer some quick readings to those who've been waiting. So we're going to start with Grace, holding on line 3. Hello, Grace.
Namaste, Grace. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much. It's so powerful. I'm really grateful to be here. And I can say that I hit my wall in 1995 after 5 years of trauma and stress and 6 root canals in a year's time. And I've recently learned that I have MTHFR, which is a genetic mutation that blocks methylation pathways. So that finally explains why I had heavy metal poisoning from the dental work, and I also have Hep C and thyroid disease.
So how can we help you today, Angel?
Oh, thank you. Recently, I'm finding that I'm self-sabotaging my process. I'm wanting to eat sugar and salt, and I've gained 20 pounds overnight, and I'd love to move forward now into radiant health and would love your input.
So I'm just so glad you called today. I am so grateful we had time to get you in. I want you to, first of all, bring your hand to your heart. If it's safe to do so right now, I want you to also close your eyes, only if it's safe to do so. And for all of you that are resonating with what she just shared, you can do the same thing. Bring your hand to your heart. If it's safe to do so, close your eyes. And I want you to first just start remembering that you are loved, and that you are loved, and that joy is your birthright. Because in the essence of everything, joy is your birthright. And the more that you can pump that in, the more that you can be willing to receive this message. And because we're running out of time, I'm just going to give it to you quickly. But all of these beings are jumping around you. They're all jumping up and down. And they're saying, don't you see? Don't you see? You are ready to finally become who you are. And as soon as you open your eyes, we are waiting for you. And so is the world. And so, my love, I'm so glad you called, and keep going. You're on the right track. Trust your guidance. Things are going to open up very, very quickly, and you're going to release very quickly too. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling, and we're just going to move quickly to another caller here so that we can share this love and connection. So let's jump to line 4 and say hi to Diane from Wisconsin.
Namaste, Diane. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I have both lupus and fibromyalgia, and so I had to listen today. But I was hoping for a mini soul reading. I'm in a place right now where I finally got out of my stress again, got away from all of that, and I have things that I want to do and been wanting to do for years.
Okay, so I'm only gonna interrupt you because I already see you, and because we only have about 4 minutes left of the show, and I want to make sure I get this message to you. Number one for you is they're saying that they're pointing and they're saying trust your intuition more, because you've suffered enough, and that it's time for your suffering to end, but only you can step through. And they're showing me a bridge, and they're saying that the bridge is saying yes to things you have not done before, yet you wanted to do. And that's the message that I have to give you, because that's the message they want you to hear today. And from my heart to your heart, make sure you get the free ebook. There's a lot of stuff in there that I think you and I have had a lot of similar experiences. I love you. Thank you so much for calling, love. You're gonna be okay. You really are. Namaste.
Yay.
Thank you,
many
Angel.
blessings. And as we are starting to wrap up here, we have just a couple of minutes. I want to invite each of our panelists to offer just 1 or 2 sentences by way of closure or a blessing or recommendation. Let's begin with Martin.
All right. Well, for Grace, there is a product from Life Enthusiast called The Gift. Look it up. It installs the vibration of self-appreciation, of agape, of knowing that you're okay. And that's the beginning. If it's not tuning in, there's help. But gosh, I should let others speak too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Marava.
We have just about a minute, Angel. What would you like to share?
Just know that we are amazing beings and that we can heal ourselves. And we just need to go in and listen deep and just know that anything is curable. anything. We can beat anything.
I agree. Hallelujah. I agree.
Yeah.
With you.
Just know that there's hope. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Right. Exactly. Keep going, because we are all supported. And if we keep going, we find the reasons, and the reasons are beyond our mind. I love that. And speaking of beyond our mind, Suzanne, sweetheart, what would you like to share?
I would just like to echo everyone and just reminding everyone that's listening that sometimes it does take a team more than not, and to listen and follow your own internal voice. You will be led, but feel open and willing to follow the heart and look outside the box.
Oh, Suzanne, thank you. And I love that you use the word team, because for you beautiful beings that have chosen to journey on the show with us today, for Martin and Marava and you, Suzanne, and my beloved angel, Sri Ramka, truly the cure was involved in the team that we all created.
Thank you all for being with us. And for all of our listeners, thank you. And take a deep breath, and may you know that all is truly well. Namaste.